Welcome to Opening Bid Unfiltered. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi, and I am so pumped to speak to our next guest. I don't know how we got him into Yahoo Finance headquarters because it's the holiday season. It's busy. He's working a big company. Maybe it's because we were one of the first people to talk to him before the company's IPO when he was just getting started. That's Circle co-founder and CEO Jeremy Allaire. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah,
man.
great to see you, Brian. Absolutely.
This has been a tremendous year for your company. Have you had any, before we get into the business and what you're up to, have you had any time to reflect on anything you've done? IPO, new partnerships? Do you take a breather at all?
Well, I tried to take a little bit of a breather at the end of the summer. It was probably one of the most wild spring and summers of my life. So taking a moment there and obviously hoping to take a little bit of a breather here at the end of the year. But I think I'm always trying to reflect. And, I think with all of the things that have been going on for Circle, there's always this kind of juxtaposition, sort of where were we a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And then constantly reflecting on just the dramatic change and evolution that's there. So it's been a very reflective year in some respects, all the way through each of these kind of milestones and moments.
One of the benefits of doing a podcast, we can let conversations breathe a little bit. So back in those early days when we were talking to you, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, whatever it was, and then now you IPO'd this year. What was that? If anything I've learned about you, you seem calm, measured, and focused. But what was that like day of IPO for you?
Well, there's a lot of there's some videos and pictures and other stuff that have circulated around from various media outlets, and they I think capture the energy pretty well. I was extremely energized. I was just thrilled, and I think it was a massive expression of pride and excitement and gratitude and in some ways vindication as well, right? Because I think when I started the company, co-founding it almost 12 and a half years ago now, the amount of skepticism that I have faced over the decade plus.
None of this existed.
Yes, none of it existed, and we had a very clear vision of what could come into existence, and we've made that happen. And so a lot of that, and really incredible for as a moment, very joyful for all of the stakeholders that have helped build the company over this whole time as well.
So 12 years ago, you co-found Circle, and you want to do something called Stablecoin, and you have regulators, all these other folks. We don't really know what Stablecoin is. How did you deal with that resistance to something that was so and is so innovative?
Yeah, so the word stablecoin didn't exist 12 and a half years ago, but we talked about dollar digital currency. We talked about this idea that you could create a protocol for dollars on the internet, that you could connect dollars and other currencies as well, dollars, euros, et cetera. You could connect those, make them function as digital currencies and make them circulate and be used on the public internet, just like we have other types of data and information on the public internet. And that was the idea we had 12 and a half years ago. And I think from really actually 12 years ago in November, actually was the first time I testified on Capitol Hill to the Senate in the very first hearing, public major hearing in Congress about virtual currency, as it was called back then. The testimony and sort of what I talked about then is sort of the same stuff that I talked about over and over and over again, all the way through getting the Genius Act signed, which is an internet-based model for money is here. It has tremendous opportunity to change how value can be exchanged. It can unlock incredible new utility for money. It can do for the financial system, what the internet has done for information and communications and commerce and software and so many other things. And we need to be able to have it be regulated because there's a kind of social contract between those that issue money and manage money and society as a whole around dealing with fraud or crime or other financial risks. But we also need to be open-minded that there's a new model. It's an internet-based model, and that's very different than the model we've had in the past. And really, the message was always like, we can build on this new technology. Even in those early days, it was very nascent technology, barely worked, right? But we could build on this technology and do it safely, and do it compliantly. And there are ways to do that, and that's been the message, continues to be the message, and I think we're entering a very different era now in terms of the change that can happen from this technology in society and the economy as a whole. But we continue to have that discussion with governments everywhere, right? Because this is now, it's sort of like when the internet got commercialized and then got rolled out, and ISPs opened up all around the world, and people started building, web hosting businesses and communications on the internet, and Yahoo obviously being a pioneer.
Yes, Yahoo,
one of the biggest pioneers in that era. That's happening now, and governments around the world are all having to work this out, and so it's a lot of people have sort of said, you have the Genius Act done, now what? And I'm like, well, now this is actually every government in the world's business. And in fact, what the U.S. has done with the Genius Act, it has created a model, much like the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which then opened up the broad commercialization and competitive internet. That's happening with this change in the financial system, and so everybody's got to figure it out.
I didn't get to tell you at the time of the IPO, but I will tell you now. I went back and I reread the prospectus for your IPO, and it was probably one of the best shareholder letters that I've read on a prospectus. Like, for real, I felt your connection to the topic. I felt your purpose, your passion for Circle. But you made a couple good points. You said, quote, "We don't fit in a box." For those not familiar with Circle, like, what is Circle today, and what will Circle be next year?
Yeah, it's really important, and I'm glad you picked that up. And thank you. This concept of we don't fit in a box, it's one of these things where, to the average person or a really sophisticated person, whatever, who's looking at a company, it's very easy to say, oh, you're like a bank, or oh, you're like a payment company. Oh, you're more like a enterprise technology company, or you're more like, they want to put you in a box, right? And we don't fit in a box. We describe ourselves now as an internet financial platform company. And actually, what's interesting, just a quick tangent, is the company's name. Originally, and it still has that, was in some cases was Circle Internet Financial, and this idea of an internet financial system was in the founding of the company. And so, an internet financial platform company. Well, we have internet platform companies. We have communications-oriented internet platform companies like a Facebook. We have commerce-focused internet platform companies like Amazon. We have information discovery platforms like Google. And we have device and mobile internet platform companies like Apple, and we think there are going to be over the next 5 to 10 years fairly sizable internet financial platform companies that are built. And what that means is that we're operating fundamental low-level infrastructure. So we have a kind of operating system business that we're building called Arc. And we're building kind of the fundamental operating system technology that's needed to bring economic activity natively onto the internet. We're a digital asset issuer. We have a money layer that we have, and a stablecoin network that is this money layer of dollars and euros. And we also have one of the fastest growing tokenized treasury and repo money market products. And then we have applications that we're building as well. So we're getting in the application space. We have an application to support international money movement between all kinds of businesses and people. We have an application that we're releasing to unlock how currencies can be exchanged around the world, and we have a lot of ideas. And so, we have a lot of the things that we do are software infrastructure that's just generally available on the public internet. It's just open software infrastructure on the internet. You don't have a contract with us. You just go build and integrate to our protocols. And then, of course, we have USDC, which is very well known, and individuals know it and use it, and institutions know it and use it, and governments regulate it, and so that's there. But this concept of an internet financial platform, I think, is here to stay, and is really who we are today. And I would just give as an example, right? Is Google an advertising company? Are they an operating system company? Are they a device company? Like what? Well, they're all those, right? They don't fit in a box. Is Facebook a communications company? Are they a hardware company?
I think they're an AI.
Are they a
AI
gaming
CapEx company?
Are they an AI company? Right. So I think as you've sort of seen in the various kind of evolving epochs of the internet, I think that there are companies that emerge that can kind of span a few key areas, and we're in some ways we're narrowly focused, right? We're not trying to build an app for like social stuff. I mean, there are companies in crypto doing that, right? We're not trying to build an everything exchange, right? We're a little bit more narrowly focused on the infrastructure that's needed to bring the economic system onto the internet, to bring the economic and financial system onto the internet, and that's narrow in that like there's a lot of other things that.
Well, I don't want to put you in a box, but if I had to make a comparison, let's just say it's 2026, and I need to compare your company to others. At this point, are you more comparable to Coinbase, more comparable to JP Morgan, or more comparable to a Visa?
There's not one easy company to map us to. I really mean that, right? Because for example, we don't sign up merchants. We don't have consumer products, right? We depend on others to do that. In fact, just earlier this week, we had a big announcement with Visa about how Visa is now rolling out USDC settlement to all U.S. issuers, for banks in the U.S. to
Sounds
now
huge.
settle with USDC. It's a big thing. They piloted it with us for a while. They started doing billions of dollars of USDC settlement, and now they're rolling it out to all of the bank customers in the U.S., and that's great, right? So we're supporting a Visa. We're an infrastructure inside of what a Visa can do, and I think, look, there are definitely companies that are working on the infrastructure layer. Coinbase has Base, Stripe has Tempo, Circle has Arc. So there's infrastructure areas, but like a lot of things, we collaborate across every layer of what we do. In fact, earlier this week was another great example. JP Morgan announced they're launching a new tokenized money market fund, which can be used on blockchains called MONY, money.
Clever.
And you can, the on-chain way to purchase and redeem that is USDC. And so, now, JP Morgan is enabling their products with USDC. And a week before, JP Morgan issued one of the first corporate commercial papers as a digital token that was sold on chain, and the purchase of that corporate commercial paper was all done with USDC, and the proceeds of it were distributed to the issuer in USDC, which is really cool. So an investment bank selling a bond, doing it with USDC. So we're an enabler, and I think great market neutral infrastructure and platform companies, they do that and become enablers for so many other firms. And that's what we want to do. We want to help every institution in the world build great products that bring economic activity on the internet, and we want to make sure that we build the infrastructure so that people can have great experiences, whether you're a person or a business or a financial institution, that you can have a great experience with this new financial system.
All right, hang with us, Jeremy. We're going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back on Opening Bid Unfiltered. All right, welcome back to Opening Bid Unfiltered. Having a great chat here with Circle co-founder and CEO Jeremy Allaire. So when you hear folks talk about rising debt levels in the U.S. And where the country is going, and it all might undermine the dollar, does that support what you're doing on stablecoin?
There's sort of like long-term kind of monetary system discussions that are very valid today. I travel around the world a lot, and we all remember when Liberation Day happened, and there were all these tariffs, and there was this sort of sell the dollar move, and people were getting out of dollar assets because it's all going to hell. Well, that's obviously wasn't the case, and that's largely reversed. But I think it underscored an actual underlying tension that's there. We've seen, for example, for mostly geopolitical reasons, we've seen large central banks acquire more gold, hold less U.S. government obligations. Now, is that because gold is better than U.S. Treasuries because the U.S. government has this massive amount of debt? Maybe. I think that's perhaps a justification. But it's also geopolitical, which is sort of, if the world fragmented further from where it is today, as opposed to more normalized, which right now at least we feel like we're moving more towards normalization. If I had to read the tea leaves for 2026, but there are these kind of geopolitical, geoeconomic questions. Now, without a doubt, so for us, look, the dollar accounts for the overwhelming majority of transactions in the world today, whether that's international trade or other transactions, capital markets transactions, commerce, and other. And a digital dollar that is programmable and works on the public internet and takes advantage of all this technology disruption is just a killer app. And it is. And that's not going to change anytime soon, right? That is a killer app that is there. And I think to bet against the U.S. economy, I think is challenging. There is no better economic system in the world right now than the U.S. system, and so the real question is the debt sustainable? That's a reasonable question. And look, I'm very much of the view that you have to deal with both issues, meaning you have to deal with the amount of spending and you have to deal with the amount of tax receipts. And actually, the fastest way to grow tax receipts is to grow the economy. And so I think a focus on growth in the economy and on bringing in investment into the country and on investing in the strategic industries that are going to fuel that growth is critical. And I think we're seeing that happen. It's a timing question, right? If you were talking to Secretary Besson, I think he'd say something similar, which is, we're going to get productivity gains out of this incredible investment that's happening in AI. And this is sort of the AI bubble discussion as well, which is, when does that happen? But me sitting here as a technologist looking at it, it seems very clear that over the next decade, we will see extraordinary productivity increases in the global economy. Yes, the U.S. economy as well, and U.S.-based companies will benefit from this massively, but we're going to see these productivity gains, and productivity gains drive real growth.
It doesn't sound like you're worried about an AI bubble. If we're going to get this much productivity because of AI, there's no bubble here.
I don't know. I mean, look, bubbles are a natural phenomenon in markets and in technology cycles.
And tulips.
Well, in the industrialization of the world economy over the past couple hundred years, right? There were many bubbles in railroads, bubbles in electricity, bubbles in so many other things. And look, the amount of investment that's happening for these 5 to 7 to 10 companies, if you count China and everything else, right? Is not everyone's going to win, right? So you're going to have some winners, you're going to have some losers, et cetera. But the real question is how quickly does the infrastructure unlock economic velocity. And so I'm very focused on that, and we're very focused on that. In fact, it's critical to Circle's strategy because we believe that economic OSs, like what we're building with ARC, we're designing those for the agentic economy. We're designing those with the assumption that over the next 3 to 5 years, a huge amount of the economic activity, the work, the labor, the coordination, the value exchange that's happening in the world will be executed by AI and will be executed by AI agents. And we need a different paradigm, a different economic infrastructure paradigm for that. And we're designing for that. And 3 to 5 years, you could have a bubble burst before that. Yahoo has lived through multiple bubbles as well.
And now we're rocking.
Yeah,
we're rocking here.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the internet bubble, kind of there was overspend on capex, and then it got absorbed as the technology got better, and you could do a lot of the things that people thought you could do in 1998 that you actually couldn't do. You could do them in 2004.
Look, you've been doing this. You founded the company 12 years ago. Clearly, you saw something happening down the line. Maybe I ended on this. Where is Circle 10 years from now? What is your vision?
Well, I think I hope that we're part of operating a major new infrastructure layer of the internet that we are building and operating, but I view what we're doing as something that it involves a lot of stakeholders, that involves a lot of whether it's developers or infrastructure companies or financial companies, like that we're building something that is running a substantial portion of this new economy, that the new economic activity that is natively running on the internet and is natively running powered by AI and is this extremely high velocity economic system, that we are foundational to the infrastructure of that. And I really would love to see that. And I believe that in 10 years that these new forms of money that we've been involved with, stablecoin money, and now the sort of these tokenization more broadly, but that these new forms of money and assets are a much larger part of the total amount of value, financial value in the economic system. And ultimately, we want to help create applications and utilities that make the financial world, at least, safer, more global, more innovative, more inclusive, and higher velocity. Like, I think our mission is to increase global economic prosperity through the frictionless exchange of value. And exchange of value is a concept that people often hear and they think, oh, you're talking about payments. Well, no, I'm actually not. Like, value exchange is I am in a labor contract with you, and I'm going to work for you, and I'm going to give you my labor, and you're going to give me income. Or value exchange is I'm going to sell you this product that you need to build your product, and there's value exchange, right? Value exchange is I want to borrow from you, and you're going to lend to me. There's so many types of value exchange. Or value exchange is I'm going to invest in your project and be a stakeholder in your project, and as the project generates returns, I'm going to get a return as well. So there's so many types of value exchange. We want to see, frictionless value exchange at a scale that we have frictionless information exchange and frictionless communications and frictionless commerce and frictionless software distribution. We want frictionless value exchange, and that can happen in 10 years. And because I think that can happen, and it can have the same kind of, like in these other areas of the internet, these sort of like million X increases in the output of the thing, the amount of communication in the world, the amount of information in the world, the amount of software in the world. It's like 1 million times larger than it was before the internet transformed it. So the amount of value exchange that can happen in the world, I think, can like million X. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it can like million X. And that, what that should mean is that global prosperity has increased, that we have played a role in driving economic velocity. And as I like to say, economic velocity is the lifeblood. It is the core of growing prosperity. And so that's what we're trying to do. We want to play a big role, and I view Circle as a company that we really want to work with everyone, and so hopefully something like that will emerge.
Well, I will just say this before I let you go. I encourage all viewers and listeners of this podcast or vodcast, whatever you want to call it, go back and read Jeremy's letter on the prospectus. These are the types of founders you want to get to know, the ones you want to trust and bet on. I mean, Jeremy is one of the most trusted people in this industry. Go back and read that letter, take notes, hit me with some comments. I'm curious on what your thoughts after you read something like that. Jeremy Allaire, thank you for joining us here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. All right, that's it for the Opening Bid Unfiltered podcast. Like I always say, hit me with those comments on the major platforms, YouTube, podcasts, you name it. I love all the feedback. It makes me better at doing these interviews. We'll talk to you soon.